Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Wormadam. So, I'm going to cut some corners right here when I review Wormadam's base stats, because depending on where Burmy evolves, and if it's a female, it gets a different cloak, which actually changes the Pokemon quite a lot. It gets different moveset, different stats, different typing, so we're going to have to break those down separately. Now, first off, if you evolve in the forest, it's going to get a plant cloak. If you evolve it in the desert, sandy cloak, and if you evolve it indoors, trash cloak. Now I feel that the game is trying to send us a deep message by saying when you evolve around industry, you become trash. So let's go and look at the plant cloak stats right up here with all these pretty highlights and stuff. So with the plant cloak, you have low amount of hit points, 60 base hit points, not too much on the attack, almost 80 special attack, and then a decent defense and a good special defense, as well as no speed. So pretty much the main stats that are going to change from cloak to cloak are just going to be attack, defense, special attack, and special defense. The hit points and speed remain the same no matter what type of Wormadam you are. Looking at the sandy cloak, it's going to be the other way around, mostly just a larger defense and then the attack instead of special attack. And then when we look at the trash cloak, it's going to be a bit more balanced. Instead of 59-79, it's just going to be 69-69. Instead of 105-85, it's 95-95. So 95 defenses with the 60 hit points, it's kind of okay, but still pretty tricky. Now, when we look at its typing, Plant Cloak is going to be a Bug Grass typing, and we know how good that can be with that 4 times weakness to flying, 4 times weakness to fire, and then a lot of other weaknesses. So, unfortunately, Wormadam is built to be tanky because of its high defensive stats, but it just has so many weaknesses in that plant form, and you also have a couple of really interesting resistances, like a quarter to ground and a quarter to grass, but overall, it's going to be a pretty tricky Pokemon to use. Its Sandy Cloak is going to be a Bug Ground typing, and that just means that we have those flying fire weaknesses, but also with water and ice, as well as an immunity to electric. So again, get some weaknesses because of that bug typing, but it's not as bad as the grass cloak, and at least we have ground for offensive stab things if we decide to actually use it offensively. And then next up we have the trash cloak. Trash cloak, by far the best, because when you think about it, it's a bug steel typing. You don't think about Wormadam when you compare it to Pokemon like Scizor, Pokemon like Fortress, these very, even Ferrothorn to a degree, these 4 times weak fire Pokemon that are incredibly durable because of their steel typing. Well, that's actually where Wormadam falls, so you can look at it that way, and if you're playing it from a tanky aspect, this is probably going to be your best bet. Hopping into Pokemon Showdown, I'm going to show the top 3 Wormadam sets. Leave a like if you like this, except I'm kind of going to cheat a bit on the Sandy Cloak, but we'll get to that later. Pretty much I'm just going to show like one Wormadam set for each type, because the Pokemon doesn't have a lot of diversity. That the move pool isn't that great, and again, we're dealing with fairly low base stats that can't really do too much. So with Grass Wormadam, I was feeling that you just want to go choice specs and hope you get as much damage down as possible while being as tanky as possible. Hit point investment, special attack investment, modest. You take that hit, you throw out a bigger hit, and maybe something happens. That if you're spec'd into Giga Drain, you might, against certain Pokemon, get a KO because you're sustaining more damage than they're dealing, or you're doing more damage than they can sustain while sustaining because of that Giga Drain. I think that's about it though. You can't really do too much. You do have coverage though, Hidden Power Fire, that's going to take out Trash Cloak Wormadams and Ferrothorns and things like that, I guess. Psychic. Wormadam learns Psychic, might as well add to the coverage, and you also get Signal Beam. It's going to be Stab, it's going to be Special Attack. Why not use it? You might see a Dark-type Pokemon, I guess. Maybe. So, as for the ability, Wormadam, all of the forms have the same ability, Anticipation or Overcoat. Now, the thing about Overcoat is because of the 6th generation change to Grass-type Pokemon, it's really not going to do too much. Grass types are naturally immune to powder moves now, so really it's just going to be Sandstorm or Hail damage. I like the idea of Anticipation, because now you can actually at least be like, okay, I'm bringing in Wormadam. I'm going to Shudder, of course, because he's going to have something super effective because I have so many weaknesses, but then you can at least use that to understand, like, well, this Pokemon might be this moveset. I'm going to Giga Drain until I die. Something like that. Next up, we have Sandy Wormadam, and with this, I was thinking, well, we have more defenses here. We can still be fairly tanky, and our weaknesses, if we get around those, we'll be okay. So, I was thinking Assault Vest Fissure. Wormadam Sandcloak gets Fissure, so why not just run that Assault Vest? And you might as well try to use Fissure. It is compatible. That Fissure technically counts as a physical move, not a status move, or it counts as an offensive attack. so you can use that with Assault Vest, and then we can also just invest in the defense, invest in the hit points, and then we just let Assault Vest do the rest. Earthquake is going to be okay damage, I mean like stab, and if you get the situations where you can use it. Same with Rock Blast, same with Bug Bite. Bug Bite stab, you might be able to like steal a berry and then convert some damage, but mostly you're going to be tanky, you're going to use that Assault Vest, and you're going to try to score some cheesy KOs with Fissure, because you are a 2 to hit 3 hit KO Pokemon, and if you get really lucky, you might be able to get that Fissure 1-for-1 in there, and that could be very cool. And then we have Trash Cloak Wormadam, and I think the name suits it. Wormadam's kind of trash when you compare it to other Pokemon like Ferrothorn. 74, 131, 116. Wormadam trash, 60, 95, 95. And it doesn't have sustain. That's the main problem here. Is that other Pokemon, they get Leech Seed, they have some kind of stat boosting. Wormadam doesn't get Swords Dance, Wormadam doesn't have priority. It's not going to be like Scizor and that can do something stupid. It's not going to be like Fortress in that it's really, really tanky. You can pretty much use Stealth Rock, hope you don't die, use Toxic, hope you don't die, and then maybe go for an Endeavor, and then Toxic finishes them off so you get Stealth Rock, Toxic, and you somehow manage to KO. That's like the best case scenario. Other than that, you have Electro Web, so maybe set up a Stealth Rock, use Electro Web, Wormadam goes down, and then you just bring in a Pokemon that's now going to be faster because of Electro Web, which means that they're either going to have to switch out and you get free damage, or you might be able to convert that into a KO with your Stealth Rocks. So it's like a delayed 1-for-1 that might mean something, I don't know. Overall, you can just kind of go with some weird investment as well. I was thinking Bold Nature, and then 100 EVs in defense because it's easier to train that way, rest in special defense and hit points, and now we're going to be a little more physically bulky while being a well-rounded tank. With this is where we can go with the Overcoat ability, except, you know, with Sandstorm, you're not going to be effective because you're Steel type. Same with Overcoat here. Like, you're losing out in some form with the abilities. It really doesn't make sense. With this set, I was thinking Impish Nature on the defense and then hit point investment, and then with this, yeah, Modest. So, if you need clarification on the abilities, or on the natures, that's what I'm talking about. And finally, Wormadam Sandy Cloak is going to be very interesting and almost unique in a way because it gets a one-hit KO move as well as Skill Swap. So, very few Pokemon can do this. It's like Smeargle and maybe something else I didn't realize gets Skill Swap in some kind of one-hit KO move. But the idea here is you Skill Swap something like a Machamp. Scarf Machamp with Dynamic Punch means your opponent has a chance of hitting themselves. You have a good chance to outspeed, and then you're also getting damage. And now you have a Wormadam that's hopefully very tanky, maybe running something like this, or maybe you can also run like Trash Cloak set, just balanced defenses. You can do something, Focus Sash. Since you're going to have to be doing this in doubles, it means that you might take some crazy amounts of damage. Or you can just go for a Citrus Berry that's going to give you a lot of tankiness. Pretty much the idea is you want to stay safe, you want to skill swap, and then you want to use Fissure with no guard to go and win. Now, there are some things you can also do to change this around. That with Machamp, you know, you can switch out Machamp, go into some kind of Pokemon that has Heal Pulse and Trick Room. That way you can at least support this now very beastly Wormadam. And I mean, it has no guard and it has a one-hit KO move. It might be able to get some work down. So other than that, you know, you like use Fissure on the Pokemon that isn't confused. That way you have a chance of knocking that one out. The Pokemon might hit itself in confusion. You bring in that Pokemon, you use Protect, you set up Trick Room, and then you can have that Pokemon use either like Heal Pulse or Heal Bell. If you're using Rest, have that Pokemon use Heal Bell, and if you don't want to use Rest, you can have that Pokemon use Heal Pulse. Then you can have something else here, like, I don't know, Toxic maybe? Just something like that. Now you have Trick Room. Now Wormadam's a very slow Pokemon. If you have Trick Room up, you're going to be able to knock out Pokemon before they can even move, and that's kind of it. So tons of setup, but it can have a chance to be cheesy and work. And remember, this is Wormadam. It's not supposed to be being used competitively, but it can still do some pretty gross things because of its unique moveset. Also, it gets Psych Up. So you can do it the other way around. You have a tanky Pokemon setting up super amounts of tankiness, you psych up those tanky stats, and now you have like an unkillable Wormadam. This is where I would recommend maybe like a Chesto Resto Berry. Resto Berry. Yes, that's exactly what you want right there. With the Chesto Resto combo, Psych Up, you rest, and then Chesto Berry, and now you just kill everything with Fissure. So if you guys enjoyed this video, also maybe like a Gravity support Pokemon would work. That way you can ground, flying, and levitate types, and make sure they get hit by that Fissure. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I hope you all have a nice day. That's how you use Wormadam.